Campbell in the Pledge of Allegiance and invocation. Please stand.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please back. Our Heavenly Father, we take this opportunity to thank you for your bountiful blessings on all of us. Bless those that are guarding our country, guarding our cities. Keep them safe. Bless their families. We ask that you give us the wisdom to make decisions that will be to the betterment of our citizenry. We thank you, Lord, for all your blessings, and we ask safe travels for everyone who has come tonight to return safely to their home. Amen.
Thank you, Councilman Campbell. Well, I see we are all present for the regular council meeting. Councilman Loretano arrived in the middle of our work session, and we really appreciate you getting here knowing that you were in court. All right, tonight we have two items on the communication, so we'll start out with the item A, home irrigation checkups, saving customer dollars and city water. Sandra Rode, Water Conservationist Specialist, to present.
Good evening, Madam Mayor and Vice Mayor and council members. I'm pleased to come before you tonight to give you a quick update on the home irrigation checkups. These are a program that the City Council requested back in 2008. We started them as a pilot, and in the first 6 months we conducted 112 home irrigation checkups. They were requested by council, and they've been highly successful because they address one of the major sources of water usage that can be reduced, outdoor water usage. Most households use up to 70% of the water they use outside, and much of that is unnecessary. So a home irrigation checkup focuses on that area of water use. We go and check the irrigation settings on timers. We measure how much plant material is there and what their water requirements will be. We check the indoor appliances just to see that there are no high inefficient water flows or toilet leaks while we're there. Then we compare the water usage for the past year to the water budget for the number of people in the household and the plants that are there. And we make recommendations based on what those findings are as to where people can find savings. On average, we're finding that high water using customers can save about 20% of their water use. And the lower using customers, those who use less than the average here in Goodyear, or less than 8,000 gallons a month, generally won't save. Their water usage is already low enough that it kind of bounces around, more dependent on weather and other factors like people coming to visit them. Nevertheless, over the course of the program, we've had 256 households participate. We've brought it in-house. We now have a utility technician in water distribution who goes out. He's a licensed plumber, and he makes these visits about 60 to 90 minutes. We've saved 9.2 million gallons of water by the high users. Unfortunately, those low users went up about 500,000. So the net savings are about 8.7 million gallons, or enough water saved to serve 87 average Goodyear families for an entire year. So we plan to move forward with this program. We're showing good savings consistently for the high water users. We're referring the lower water users to our classes on how to set their timers correctly, and the print and web resources that are available to them on water conservation. I'm glad to see that we've been able to make a success of this program. Are there any questions?
Thank you, Sandra. That was a great presentation. I'll turn it to council. Questions? Comments? Well, I just think it was a wise decision on the council to go forth with this program, because you can see it's definitely benefiting our citizens, and we appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, item B is recognition of students who completed the CERT training, and Othello Newbill, our emergency management coordinator, to present. Mr. Newbill? Wow.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, Vice Mayor, Council. I am Odell Newbill, Emergency Manager. These are the participants for our latest CERT training class. As you know, it's approximately 24 hours. They spent 2 nights a week with us for the month of May. They had the opportunity to set some things on fire. Unfortunately, they put them out successfully. While I'm going to be speaking to you very briefly, I believe there's a few photos for you to look at as well. One of the things I would like to do, these are students, but Fran, if you could step up here, please. Fran was one of the people that did the moulage for us. So if you see the blood dripping and everything, Fran is the one that did it, all the burns or what have you. And then we had, hiding in the back, this young lady, we tried to put out information to inform the cleaning staff that we would be doing this mock exercise. And one of the cleaning staff came into the kitchen and saw her with this right here and really made up, and she began to panic because she thought it was for real. So we had to, and then fortunately her father could translate for us in Spanish, so we got that all squared away. So, but it was a little bit touch and go there. So as you can see, there are some of the pictures up there. But I just want to thank them for the time that they dedicate to come and learn how they can benefit themselves as well as the city. But also, they were a very good class, and we had participation from the city as a whole. And I want to thank you all for your continued support for the CERT class. We had 30 people that signed up, and 21 actually completed, went all the way through. So we just want to say thank you for the support and want to present them to you.
Well, I think that deserves a round of applause. Any comments from council, because I think this is an important class that's been taken. Councilman Campbell?
Tim, do you mind letting each one introduce themselves? Because I
Oh, ma'am, not at
know
all.
they work very hard. I graduated, I think, in the second CERT class. So fellow CERTs, welcome, and thank you for doing this.
If we can start from this and everybody just give their
Okay,
name.
would
walk
you
up
come
to
up
the
to the
microphone.
mic, because we can't hear you, and I'd like it for the record, please.
Sally Nord. Denise Snyder.
Stephen Watkins.
Regina Otlowski.
Larry Frechot.
Rosa Bautista. Norma Banda.
Sharon Andrade.
Baltazar Andrade.
Amy Herman. Kim Kreka.
Craig Stolberg.
Raúl Bautista. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Newbell, I have a question. Did you introduce, is everybody finished?
Well, Fran, give me your name. Soraya, because I was going to call her Syria, so I know I'm going to mess it up. She was an actor for us, and like I said, Fran is the one that helped with the moulage. So.
Wonderful.
Thank you.
There's been several classes. What's the total now that have graduated? You can just an estimate, I guess.
We are approximately around 220, 230 people completed. My goal is really to have 10% of the city of the
because-
residents.
Absolutely,
So I'm looking at
and
about
it's-
6,500, somewhere in there total.
So if we have some catastrophe, these are the people we're going to look at to
Right,
come
to
in and
help us
help
out.
us.
Thank you
So you are
that
going to
make you
be
feel better?
You're going to be in charge. So we really appreciate it.
And I'd just like you know, Madam Mayor, we did have, this is our first international group. We had someone from Canada actually in the group. So
I tell you, we're hearing about Canadians all the time.
we did a background check.
We have blocks. We have blocks of Canadians in our city now, and we really appreciate that. So it brings another element. We are definitely an international city. All right. So we welcome you. Thank you. So yes,
Yes,
go ahead.
I'm so no.
No, you're
I have nothing to say. I was just going to say thank you. I was trying to get out of your way.
no, you're not in our way at all. We just thank you once more.
Thank you.
I lost it again. Okay. We're finished with communications except for the citizens. So do we have any citizens that would like to make appearance before council and would like to address anything that is not on the agenda item? Do we have any cards?
Yes, we do.
All
The
right.
first one is Sherilyn Homan.
Okay, as they come up, I just want to remind them that the council will listen to your comments and may take any one of the following steps. Respond to criticism, request that staff investigate and report on the matter, and request that the matter be scheduled on a future agenda. Each speaker is limited to 3 minutes. The yellow light and buzzer will let you know you have 30 seconds left to speak. Before you begin, please identify yourself by clearly stating for the record your name and address. Ms. Holman?
Thank you, Mayor and Council. My name is Sherilyn Homan. I live at 915 East V. Elena in Goodyear. And I just wanted to take just a very brief moment of time to thank the council and to the staff who was responsible for getting our speed humps in the northern subdivision. Wally, we thank you for your advocacy, and of course Lily Shuett, who stuck with us through the years that we were asking. And I especially want to commend you because you were proactive and did not wait for what we were so fearful might happen. So thank you very much. I've witnessed it. It's doing its job. It's doing what we hoped it would do, and I thank you.
You're quite welcome. Thank you so much for coming for us.
The next speaker is Alex Romero.
Mr. Romero? We'll give Sherilyn a moment here too. She does have high speed on that, but we're not going to put you in danger. Mr.
Mayor
Romero.
Lord and members of the council, my name is Alex Romero. I live at 17511 West Ocotillo in Estrella Mountain Ranch. I'm here to appeal to the mayor and the council to bring about an ordinance that would prohibit medical marijuana dispensaries in the community of Goodyear. Recently, when the medical marijuana bill was passed by the voters, part of the law says that cities, towns, and counties may enact reasonable zoning regulations that limit the use of land for registered nonprofit medical marijuana dispensaries. Now, the operative word in what I just read was may. That is not a mandate. So given that information and knowing what Schedule I drugs are, which includes marijuana, peyote, meth, and ecstasy, all the drugs that we hear about all the time, it just doesn't seem healthy to have that environment in Goodyear. I have young children, grandchildren, and I'm always concerned about their safety. And since drug use is so adamant in our community, it just drives me crazy. It is a Schedule I drug. It has high potential for abuse, no current accepted medical use. In Denver, I just had an article sent to me that their crime rate is 69% higher. Think about that. Do we want that in Goodyear? I don't. I want a safe city for myself and my children and grandchildren. There's an appeal from myself, my organization, which is only concerned about smoking, and Drug Watch International. We have monitored the movement of the drug people since 1980. Part of their strategy was to establish a thing to get medical marijuana in. The next step is to legalize all illicit drugs, So I appeal to the city of Goodyear to enact an ordinance to prohibit those terrible, terrible situations to come to our community. Thank you.
Thank you.
Can I answer any questions?
No, thank you. So you put that on the list to address to Mr. Ramos. Thank you.
Mark Pelletier.
Mr. Pelletier.
Mark Pelletier, 15742 West Fairmount. Mayor Lord, Vice Mayor Osborne, members of the council, you all know why I'm here. It'll probably be the last time when I'll speak against the digital billboards. I would ask those who may be in the audience tonight who weren't here for the work session, or people viewing the council meeting here on the web, take a look at that work session that preceded this, familiarize yourself with the issue. I've spoken to you about many issues. I'm not going to repeat stuff, just comment on things that came to me after the work session tonight. The Bullard Wash land, we were told tonight, was purchased for the Bullard Wash, yet we want to put a billboard on it. That property, I'm sure, is not yet a park. The Bullard Wash Park is further north, but it may be a future park. Is this what we want for park or park-like property? Is this use for that sort of a property in keeping with the general plan definition of that property usage? I have to reiterate again, these signs were illegal. We're not allowed under our laws until someone offered us a lot of money. And now we passed a law that says we can have them. There's a number of terms in our language for doing something just for the money, and none of them are very complimentary. We learn now that the deal is 25 years with an out after 15, but 15 is really unrealistic. The only reason we're talking about doing this is for the money. Sure, we could get out in 15 or 17 years, but then all that's going to happen is 3 or 4 councils from now, they're going to give back a sizable portion of the money. That was the only reason we did this now. We heard of studies that says this isn't a distraction. Come on. The purpose of advertising is to grab your attention. Whether it's 1.28 seconds or 2 seconds, it is a distraction. And it's cumulative with all the other distractions that the council said, well, texting is worth and this is worth and that. Distractions are cumulative. Does the council really want to spend their time continuing to debate the size and shape and color of billboards? All these questions that have come up, we learned about questions that have gone against all sorts of agencies at the state and national level. All of these things, everybody is changing their rules and accommodating. What are they accommodating? Advertising cornflakes. And I guess the last things, some of our members, the council members, have already said, this is a great idea, let's do more. Those of you who said, I like to, but I don't want more, if you open the door, you've opened the door. How much is too much distraction? How much is enough money to pay for something that we used to say we didn't want? Please give it your thought. Thank you.
Thank you. Now we're going to go, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't know the, I should have asked that. I'm sorry, I didn't hear the name.
Dave Shaw.
Mr. Shaw?
Hi. I'm Dave Schock, 606 Cayuchulo. Just good afternoon, Mayor Lord, council members, City Administrator Dolke, and the city employees. Most of us that come before the council are either complaining about something, asking for something, but today I would like to thank you for something. As the past president of the North Subdivisions Neighborhood Alliance, and I'm now a current board member, I would like to thank you for the assistance you gave North Subdivisions for obtaining and installing speed cushioning devices in our neighborhood. My wife Sharon and I live along Central Avenue, and we have noticed a drastic difference in the speed of the people that pass by our home. I have also been told by others in the neighborhood that they too have noticed this improvement. The speed cushions not only create a calmer atmosphere in our neighborhood, but also make a safer environment for our kids. I would like also to specifically thank our city traffic engineer, Luke Albert, for his help and guidance in this project. Without his help and direction, we would not have been able to make this process go as smoothly as it did. A few years ago, during the height of the housing craze, my wife and I did do some looking at new homes outside the area of Goodyear. We never found a house in the neighborhood that felt like the home that we had in Cayuchulo and in North Subdivisions. There are many reasons that I'm glad that we did not move, but one in particular is that North Subdivisions is truly the neighborhood that and is truly a neighborhood, and all of you at the city have helped us to make it be that way. Thank you all again for your help in North Subdivisions and everything else that you do to make Goodyear the premier city that it is. So, thank you again.
Thank you very much. All right, now we're going on to the consent agenda, items A through D. what I,
Item A, approve draft minutes of a regular meeting held on May 21st, 2012. Item B, approve cancellation of the July 16th, 2012 regular council meeting because several council members will be absent and a quorum will not be possible. B2, schedule a special council meeting on July 9th, 2012 to meet the provisions of the city charter that requires meeting not less frequently than 2 times each month. Item C, adopt ordinance 12-1260, amending the Goodyear City Code, by deleting Article 7-3, potbelly pigs, in its entirety, amending subsection 7-1-4-B, restrictions on keeping animals, by replacing the reference to Article 7-3 with a reference to Article 7-2, amending Section 7-2-1, definitions, to move the current definition for household pets from Section 7-3-1 to Section 7-2-1, replacing subsection 10-3-2H, scavenging, in its entirety, providing for severability and an effective date. Item D, adopt ordinance 12-1259, amending City of Goodyear Code by deleting Article 4-3, permit to discharge certain firearms, in its entirety, deleting Article 13-4, bicycles, in its entirety, deleting Section 13-2-12, operation of vehicles on vacant lots, in its entirety, and providing an effective date.
thank you. Does anybody from the public wish to remove an item from the consent agenda? Does anybody on the council wish to remove an item from the consent agenda?
I have a question.
A question on what item?
C.
C. So, we're talking about, who would like to address this on the potbelly pigs? Thank you, Chief.
Thank you. For clarification, so are we saying that potbelly pigs cannot be family pets? Is that what this is addressing?
Basically, the reason behind this, with the passage of Senate Bill 1598, we're trying to clear up some of our ordinance, which are either contradictory, duplicates, or we just don't enforce. The issue with the potbelly pigs was that we have another ordinance that prohibits pigs as pets, which totally contradicted this ordinance. So, and also the original ordinance required if anybody that had a pig to be registered. Nobody has come forth and registered them, to my knowledge, indicating either we don't have any or people are not complying with the ordinance. So because of those reasons, we're eliminating the first original ordinance, and we will just have the ones saying that you cannot possess them within the city as pets.
Okay, so currently in Mobile or within city limits, with the exclusion, I guess, of the county islands, we're saying that potbelly pigs are prohibited, and it has been that way, is what you're saying. Potbelly pigs are prohibited in our city.
I'm not saying it's been that way. I'm saying there's a duplicate code. The one code that we had said that we can't have potbelly pigs as pets. Another one said that we can, as long as they're registered as household pets. So we had a duplicate.
I see. Okay.
And what we're saying is, since nobody has come forward and registered any, then either they don't have them or they're not complying anyways. So it's our recommendation to remove that part of the ordinance and just keep the remaining ordinance saying that they cannot be kept as pets in the city limits.
And does this also, are schools, I don't want to say grandfathered, but are schools with their ag departments, are they separate from this type of ordinance with any kind of animals in that manner?
I will let you, I can find out for you. I apologize. I don't know about the school, if there's any special restrictions. They are within the city.
Well, because they have potbelly pigs, and so that's why I'm asking
I will
this
check
question.
on the school issue for you. I'll let you know.
Do most of the young people, because you're very familiar with this, participate in this, and do they keep the animal in their home, on their property, or is it
they're
normally on the farms?
They're
or?
on the school property, and some have been potbelly pigs.
So they
And-
raise them on the school property?
Yes.
Oh.
So that's within city limits, and
It
that's
is.
why I'm asking that. And now I have actually, now I don't think I've seen it here in Goodyear. I've seen people have potbelly pigs that, they're like cats. I mean, not that cats run around more than pigs actually do within homes, but I've seen that. I guess until you can give me an answer about how this may affect the schools, then I would appreciate tabling this until we have that answer, because quite frankly, with the things I'm going to tell you at the end of this evening about the both Desert Edge and Millennium's ag departments and what they have going on has been very beneficial, and so I need some clarification, I think, on that.
And Vice Mayor Osborne, there may be some provision allowing that, but I will find out.
And so I don't want to say,
I will
on
find that
this
out for you.
until I know that answer.
Councilman Stipp?
But if they already are doing this with the pigs, then they should have been registered already, is the way I'm reading this.
This is true.
Is that correct?
Correct.
So
But they're not.
they're
They're not pets.
not pets. So,
So that's what I'm trying to clarify.
well, I would, if we already have, I mean, I want to, I never imagined I'd be having this discussion. But if we already have language that addresses this elsewhere in the city code, and this is just simply cleanup, I'd suggest we clean it up and let the rest of the city ordinance do its job.
Okay,
Because it's not prohibitive either. Neither this nor what we already have is prohibiting the schools from doing what it is that they're
True.
already doing with the pigs.
Okay, I guess it's just that, just as the chief described, is one is saying that you're allowed to have them as long as you register them as pet, and the other one is saying you can't have them, period. And so there is a difference there. And I know that we in the past with Mobile had made some kind of provisions that not to change their lifestyle. So
No, I was on that,
Right,
that
right.
committee.
So this shouldn't,
and we actually
apply
did,
to them.
we actually did change some of the lifestyle, because there were a lot of people in
just don't
Mobile who had complaints.
Right.
They didn't want the cows in the front yard, and, they didn't want this and that, and so we actually did make and Harvey, is he still here?
Well, if the bases have been covered, then I'm
Or
okay.
Joe Schmidt here? Do you know anything about this, Joe? Do you remember? I think you worked on it
Yeah,
also.
Joe.
Can you just come forward quickly and just verify that when Councilman Osborne is saying that,
Yes.
we didn't, because we really did make a few adjustments, but it was public request on some of them, as I remember. So.
Mayor and council, with respect to the Mobile area, we dealt with it basically under the zoning ordinance in terms of what animals you can keep, what you can't keep. You'd be grandfathered in if you had animals that you wanted to continue to keep. This is separate from the zoning ordinance. This is part of the city code. And I'm sorry, I'm not familiar with the change that's being made, so I can't help you with
But that sort of
any
gives a
answers.
distinction between Mobile and here. I think that's all I was looking
Yeah,
for.
no, I
Okay?
appreciate that. Okay, well, I guess if there's not concern as it relates to Mobile and to the schools, then I'll be okay with it.
Yes.
Can I just follow up on that?
Councilman Loretano.
Yeah, I was just asking if they're pets or if they're raised and then taken to market. And I don't have a problem pulling it, so if we need to change the ordinance as we're changing it one time to make a school or an education exception, I don't have a problem with that. I don't think we probably have an overlying pig problem right now. That if we waited just to check that out and see if we needed to change it as we're changing it one time at educational, I'm okay with that.
Can I get some consensus from the other council members?
I don't see schools projects and their agricultural as pets. I see it as two different classifications. So I don't see it as an issue because they're not pets living in residential areas. A school is a whole different entity. So I think you could argue they're not related.
Councilman Cavill?
I agree with Councilman.
Councilman Stipp? I'm just looking for consensus here on the two suggestions here.
The suggestion is we pull it? Is that
That's what they're indicating.
what? I'd rather just get it, kind of just get this over with. I think we've got it already addressed. I hate to waste any more staff time. I can't believe that we've even figured this part out yet.
Councilman Gelser, do you have an opinion? I think we have a consensus here to leave it. I think we have a consensus to leave it on the agenda because I agree not to taking it off. Are we all listening here? Hello, hello?
Yes.
Barbecue.
Yes.
Let's go.
You're getting out of control here.
I think that the distinction is pet versus market, and I think that's the.
I can understand your concern, but I
I
think
just
the
wanna make sure the school's okay,
general
that's all.
consensus is to leave it on. So we're going to be voting on
Save the school.
A through D. So
Oh, no. Oh, did you?
No, I'm fine.
To pull it or to
No,
leave
I'm
it?
fine either way, actually.
but that's
No,
all right. Do I need to put it up for vote on this? How do I do
Yes,
this?
you need a motion and a second.
A motion
Well,
and a second.
Are you keeping it on? Or we
To keep it
voting?
on or to eliminate it at this time?
Mayor, I move we keep it on and approve the consent calendar as presented.
Do I hear a second?
Mayor Lord, you don't need a motion for that. If
Oh.
consensus is to leave it on, then you just
Oh.
need a motion for consent A through D.
Oh, I'm sorry, I misunderstood you. I thought you were saying I needed it for this.
No.
Motion would be to table if somebody wanted to table it.
Oh, okay. Well, since it wasn't consensus, I need a motion to accept the consent items A through D, and that includes in item B, B1. Your motion?
Mayor, I move that we accept the consent item A through D.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
I heard a motion from Councilman Campbell and a second from Councilman Gelser. Roll call vote, please.
Vice Mayor Osborne.
Aye.
Councilmember Pizzillo.
Aye.
Councilmember Loretano.
Aye.
Councilmember Campbell.
Aye.
Councilmember Gelser.
Aye.
Councilmember Stipp.
Aye.
Mayor Lord.
Aye.
Passes 7-0.
Thank you. Now on to the business section. We have 8 business items tonight for consideration. The first 3 items are related to recommendations for appointments to various boards, commissions, and committee. Staff will make all the presentations, and this is the key, Council. City clerk will administer the oath of loyalty to all appointees at the very end. So remind me as we go through this if I say come up to the podium. So we'll start with A. We will consider the appointment of the citizens representative to the Public Safety Personnel Retirement, Police, and Fire Boards. Then we'll have presentation,
Good
please.
evening, Mayor Lord, council members. Your subcommittee for council commissions, boards, and committees has been very busy. And this item, as the mayor stated, is to consider appointment of Jay Mathias as the citizen representative to the Public Safety, Personal Retirement, Police, and Fire Boards. Board member Bob E. West submitted his resignation last April, and this was before his term ended. So the vacancy was published in the newspaper and on the city website. The council subcommittee for boards, commissions, and committees reviewed all the applications and interviewed Mr. Mathias on May 21st, 2012. And the subcommittee unanimously agreed to recommend him to the council for appointment to this board. Mr. Mathias has been a resident of Goodyear for 30 years and is a Palm Valley resident, and he will be eligible to be reappointed in 2013.
Thank you very much. Are there any, I'm asking you here, you're not there, so any speaker cards? All right, thank you. Would anybody from the audience like to speak? All right, then I shall ask for a motion to appoint Jay Mathis to the Public Safety, Police, and Fire Boards as a citizen representative with a term ending October 10th, 2013. Do I hear a motion?
So moved.
A second?
Second.
I heard a motion by Councilman Stiff and a second by Councilwoman Loretano. Open for council discussion. No discussion? Then please, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. Thank you very much.
Mr. Mathis, would you stand up? Because you'll be taking your oath, but just so the council will recognize.
Congratulations. Second item, 124837, is consideration of appointment of Andrew Clark to the Fire Safety Building Code Enforcement Board of Appeals. Ed Kulik, Chief Building Official, will present. Ed?
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I'd like to introduce Mr. Andrew Clark. he was chosen by the subcommittee to fill a spot on the Fire Building Board of Appeals. Mr. Clark was chosen as the representative as a builder, architect, or superintendent. Mr. Clark, would you please stand?
Thank you. Are there any are you finished, Mr. Kulish? All right, thank you. Are there any speaker cards? No. Would anybody in the audience like to speak? Then I'd like to ask for a motion to appoint Andrew Clark to the Fire Safety Building Code Enforcement Appeals Board with a term expiring December 21st, 2016. Motion?
So moved.
Second.
I heard a motion from Councilman Gelser and a second from Vice Mayor Osborne. Open for council discussion. No discussion, so all in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Ayes have it. We'll go on to item C. That's 124834. Our next item, consideration for reappointment to the Industrial Development Authority IDA Board. Larry Lang to present.
Thank you, Mayor. I want to start by pointing out a little trick we learned in getting people to apply for these boards. We put in their term that's, while it says 6 years, we put the date at 2015, but actually the 6 years would be till 2018.
Oh, okay.
It's just Sherilyn doesn't know that, so we won't tell her right now.
Surprise, surprise.
Yeah,
huh?
exactly. It's my pleasure to introduce Sherilyn Holman. Sherilyn is the executive director of the Chamber of Commerce and has been an active member of the Industrial Development Authority Board, and the subcommittee unanimously recommended her appointment back to that board.
Very good, thank you. Are there any speaker cards?
No.
Would anybody from the audience like to speak? Well, I need to ask for a motion to reappoint Sherilyn Holman to the Industrial Development Authority, IDA, Board for 6-year term expiring on May 31st, 2018. Thank you.
So moved, Mayor.
I hear a motion from Councilman Campbell. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Second from Councilman Pizzillo. Open for council discussion. No discussion. I will discuss something very quickly. It says she certainly does volunteer for a lot of things, and we absolutely appreciate that she is a Goodyear citizen. I thank you very much. So I'll put this out. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. Thank you very much. So now is the time for Lynn to come, our city clerk, to administer the oath of loyalty to all new appointees. So if you'll come forward, please. I forgot to write down my activities. All right, if you'll raise your right hand, please. And repeat after me, and after I, just state your name at the same time. I do solemnly affirm that I will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution and laws of the state of Arizona, that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same and defend them against all enemies, foreign and domestic, and that I will faithfully and impartially discharge the duties of the name of your committee according to the best of my ability. So I do affirm. Once more, we thank you very much for your consideration to be on our committees and commissions, and we're going to thank you ahead of time for all the work that's in store for you, but greatly appreciated by Mayor and Council. All right, now we're at the time that, let's see, where are we here? Lynn will present.
D.
And we're now on D, thank you.
Liquor fees.
The next item is, on D, is related to the liquor license renewal fees. This item has been discussed, and I'll say that again, quite often, has been discussed by council several times in the past few months. And so Lynn Mulhall will present.
And Chief Geyer. Good
And Chief
evening,
Geyer.
Mayor
Chief, I'm
Lord
sorry.
And council members. As the mayor said, you have discussed this during several work sessions recently, and now we're bringing back 3 alternatives for you to discuss. One is to keep the current liquor license fee as it is at $6.35. One alternative is to abolish the current liquor license renewal fee. And the third one is to approve a new flat rate of $100 for a liquor license renewal. And Chief Geyer has the other information that you wanted about police reports.
Mayor and Council, I know during the last work session there was a couple issues that came up and questions regarding the enforcement aspect dealing with liquor licenses. And I just want to make a couple introductions and acknowledge a couple of people that are in the audience tonight. First of all, Greg Garner. Wave Greg. Greg is a detective with the police department, a longtime detective. He does all of our background work and everything involved with liquor licenses through the police department. Also, Mary Jaramillo. Mary is an investigator with the State Department of Liquor. So we are available to answer any questions that you might have.
Great, thank you. Do we have anybody, speaker cards? Oh, there you go. No. Is there anybody from the audience who would like to speak on this subject matter? I'd like to ask a motion from the council, please.
Mayor, I'd like to move that we keep the current liquor license renewal fee of $635 as stated previously.
Do we just make a motion to discuss it first?
If you have no firm direction, you can discuss it, then look for a motion.
So we can, with this motion, we can discuss all
Well,
other.
you have a motion at this point, now you're looking for a second.
Okay. We have a motion on the table to renewal fee of $635. Is that what?
Yes,
you
ma'am.
mean? So that was option 1. Do I have a second?
Second.
All right. We have a motion by Councilman Gelser and a second by Councilman Campbell. So I guess we're going to do a roll call vote. No, we don't do that.
You can discuss it at this
We can
point as
discuss it.
well.
Let's open for discussion. Sorry.
Questions?
Councilman Stipp.
No, that was Pizzillo.
I'm sorry, Councilman Pizzillo. I looked right at you. You look sort of alike.
I know my hair's long, but
Yeah, well,
A couple questions. I noticed in the, first of all, the 635 was originally passed as an ordinance of cost recovery. Nowhere in the COAC did I see that it costs $635 to recover the cost, point 1. Point 2 is I noticed that even if we make this 0, we would still send out an application. And I guess my question is why? Because we have a business license application that these companies would have to have. Don't we track them within the business license?
Councilmember Pizzillo, I'm not sure. That makes sense that she's tracking those businesses. We really don't coordinate our efforts with Tina Daniels at this time. That's something we can do. It was suggested by Legal Services that we have an application, a renewal application, even if there wasn't a fee. So if there was a change by location or by owner, that would be one way of bringing it to our attention. Even if there wasn't a fee, it would just be something that we would send out once a year.
But would it be possible through Tina Daniels to pretty much get the information you need as far as tracking?
I'm sure it would.
Because we collect the $75 for all businesses, and they would have to be part of that.
I'm sure there would be. She could provide us with a list, and we could cross-check it against the list that we have.
But am I correct that the $635 does not cover the cost of issuing the liquor license?
It was my understanding that when the user fee was studied, this was a benchmark amount, and that it wasn't related. It was more of a benchmark of what other cities were charging at the time.
I recall we had that discussion. My concern is it was under the ordinance of revenue recovery, so that's where I have a problem with the 635 because it's not tied to the revenue recovery. Now, if it was part of the discussion to be a revenue enhancement, then that's another issue into itself. But it's my understanding that's not how it was presented at that time, because it was part of an ordinance of all recovering costs for a variety of different things. So I cannot support the 635.
Any other comments? Councilman Loretano?
I actually have a question, first of all. When we do the renewal, I know you're here for the background check. Do we do another background check or not?
Councilmember Loretano, we do not do anything on a renewal. It's as the police chief, it's my feeling we have a responsibility to at least do a very, very quick check into that, which we've agreed that we're going to start doing. Our estimate is we're talking about 15 minutes, a very minimal investment, which we can assume easily at the police department, which is what we're going to start doing. So it'll be a very brief background check into those renewals.
And then my other question is, when it's a renewal of your license, oh, my computer just went down. Now I totally forgot what I was going to say.
You can come back if you want.
Yeah, if we could come back before
All
we
right,
vote on that. I have a question.
Vice Mayor Osborne?
So one of the other options was the flat fee of $100, and you have about 4 different city clerk staff will check state records to ensure we have a list of all active licensed. Police department will review department records for any calls. So some of these things are not currently taking place, correct? But at this flat fee level, they will take place? Is that what we're thinking? Or are you going to be changing your ways and doing those things anyway?
Well, you have brought a lot of things to our attention, Vice Mayor Osborne, council members, and we had a discussion. The chief and I met, and Larry Lang, and we and Mike Spetz, and we talked about the processes that we have currently. We thought it would be a good process to start by double checking these, and as Chief Geyer said, his staff can take about 15 minutes to do a quick check on the records. We would implement the application again, even though we are checking with the business license employee and checking that. There might be other information that we would find by going to the state website ourselves and seeing the status of some of these licenses. She's only going to get the ones that are still in business, that are paying their business license fee. It might be quicker for us to go to the state site and look at the actual list of current license holders or see if someone has moved. This year, when we did it in December, we found out that the Thai restaurant next door, Sela Thai, that they were going to be under a new ownership, that the ones that currently owned it were leaving. And we wouldn't have known that from Tina Daniels.
That's right.
We found that out by going to the state website. So we could coordinate with Tina. We can do a check of our own. The Chief's Department, they can do their quick background check. And when we had this meeting, we thought, well, $100 would be a fair rate to charge. That we could justify that amount, and it would help us keep a better tracking of the different licenses.
Yeah, and I appreciate that, because I believe that this is a privileged license that they carry, and so I think that it's part of our due diligence to make sure that within our town they're doing the correct thing. I support more the $100 fee. Gary, I'd love to hear your thoughts about the 635.
Councilman Gelser?
Putting me on the spot. I believe having a liquor license is a privilege, and I think other cities are charging as much as $1,500 for a liquor license and renewals. And I think. I look at the cost recovery portion of the fee, but I also look at this is a privilege, and it's a controlled substance, and I think having the privilege to sell liquor is worth something a little bit above and beyond what it costs the city to check your records on an annual basis. That's why I recommend leaving the renewal at the $635 that we have it.
Did you remember your question?
Yes, I did.
Councilman Loretano.
Sorry about that. When we were talking about moving, the establishments move, if they switch owners, do the new owners have to get a separate liquor license under their name, or does it stay with the actual business itself?
They have to get a new license. They can work under an interim license for a period of time, but they apply for a new license. And we eventually get that from the state.
But as it is now, we don't get that, and the renewal, we may be sending it to the wrong management or something.
No, we get it from the state.
Okay.
The applicant goes to the state to apply, and then the state mails us the application.
Okay, so
So
the
we
ones
do
you found, the
receive-
Thai restaurant you found, you just
It might have just
got
been
ahead.
a quirk of time that we saw that right when it was happening.
And do you think the $100 would be enough to recover the costs for what you're talking about now?
We discussed that. It would be a good place to start, and we would monitor it because we have not done that, how much time we're spending. So this would trigger us to keep track of all that time. If
Thank
we
you.
found that it would cost more, we would bring that back to council.
And
Thank you.
Councilman Stipp?
I'm not sure if either one of you even knows the answer to this question. When someone applies for a liquor license in the state of Arizona, there's a fee that goes with that. That fee is pretty substantial.
I believe you have that as an attachment to the COAC, all the fees that the state charges. But yes, you're correct. Some of the fees are substantial.
So this business is already paying for the quote-unquote privilege to operate in the state of Arizona. So now we're telling them that it's a privilege to operate in our city. And I think that's pretty slippery slope if we're going to start talking about privilege fees. I hate the idea that we're going to start creating work so we can charge a fee. And I mentioned that the night of the work session. I am in complete agreement with Councilman Pizzillo that we need to do away with this fee. We're not doing anything with the information. We've already charging them for the business renewal, and we can track them for our purposes via that method. And I cannot be any stronger in my disagreement about a privilege fee.
Councilwoman Campbell?
Well, I second the motion so that we could discuss it. I'm in favor of charging the $635 to initially get a license, and I think we need the $100 renewal. If we don't have a license fee, we don't know when a new business is opening up to sell liquor. We don't know, well, not necessarily, unless they buy a license. And the license simply tells us they want to operate in Goodyear. It doesn't tell us that they're selling liquor. What if they're close to a school? What if they're by a daycare center? What if they're by one of our parks? We don't have any control. I mean, we won't know that's where they are necessarily until after they apply for their business license. But if, Chief, you weren't with us last year when we had a business that applied for a liquor license, and our police department investigated it. This was when we were charging for it, and they uncovered some information that was vital to this council, and therefore we made a no recommendation for that license. But had your officers not brought that information to us, we wouldn't know that. And as it turned out, that would have been detrimental to this city had that license gone forward with our recommendation to let them have it. Now, I know when you apply for a liquor license, they put a big sign on somebody's window and it says they've applied for this liquor license, but when does the community have an opportunity to say we don't want that in our neighborhood?
When we receive an application, Councilmember Campbell, council members, when we receive an application from the state, we have a process that we follow. And the first thing we do is we send that application to the police department, which triggers them to do their background check. We send it to planning and zoning so that we make sure that the property was zoned properly for that establishment. And we contact our contractor who posts the sign. and the sign states when it will be at a council meeting. That's why sometimes when we have liquor licenses at a council meeting, you have to start the meeting at 6 o'clock, because that's been posted on that sign for 21 days, so the public knows that that is their opportunity to speak either against or for that liquor license. So there is a process in place.
Well, knowing all of those steps that you just mentioned, to me, that would, each of those cost time
That's a
and
new license.
money. Well, then that's the 635.
Right.
So we need to have that to cover doing what we need to do.
Yeah, well,
We're talking renewal.
That's what I'm saying. I'm for that, but I only seconded his motion so we could talk about it.
Right.
But I'm really in favor of a $100 renewal.
Councilmember Stipp, you
Sorry.
mentioned that you were afraid that we were creating tasks to justify the $100, and knowing what we know now after all of these work sessions, we want to do that. We want to do due diligence and check on these establishments. So I don't think we're not trying to create a justification right now.
Councilman Pizzillo.
I guess a point of order for the attorney. We have a motion on the table.
Well, we have to vote on that.
If we vote on that motion and it goes up or down, can we still pick one of the other options, or do we have to? Can I put another motion on the table to amend that motion and vote on that? I mean, trying to think of the mechanics on how this
We
works.
just voted down or voted.
You could do it either way. I don't think it's necessarily completely incompatible with the main motion to amend to reduce to 100. There's elements of the second motion that you need to spell out as far as an effective date. But no, I don't. I think you could just make an amendment.
So I can make an amendment to the motion on the table.
Yes, to amend the current renewal fee to $100 and the effective date.
Well, to continue on, if staff, what I'm hearing from staff, and again, from my perspective, this was sold on a revenue recovery ordinance, and that's what I'm focused on, because I also believe we're getting, I think it's about 34% more from the restaurants in the 4% versus the 2.5%. I think it calculates to about 34% more in tax revenue from them. So if you're saying as a result of this discussion, some, I guess, best practices have come out of it to the extent that we need to do some additionals, and that the $100 would cover the cost, I don't have a problem going from $635 to $100 if that's truly going to benefit the city, which it sounds like from Chief Geyer understanding what that's going on. And later down the road, I guess you can kind of do some further study on that. But I'm not willing to go any more than that if you're telling me that as best practices it's worth doing. So I can see that, but no more. So I would like to, and again from a motion standpoint, try to amend the motion to say that the renewal that takes effect, I believe, January 1, gets set at $100 to further study afterwards when you look at the cost recovery can be examined.
And you're directing staff to bring a resolution to that
Yes.
effect.
Yes. $100.
I'm going to second that.
So I'll just,
Save it.
I'm going to have them vote on the amendment.
You'll handle the amendment first, yes.
Okay. So you've heard the amendment, so we'll have a roll call vote on this. Roll call vote, please.
Discussion.
The amendments for the
All right, you know what, how about, it's so much easier if you just vote on the first one he said, then yay or nay, and then go on to the other one. It's just so much easier.
I'll
I mean,
withdraw the
that's-
motion, and you can
You
have...
would do what?
I will withdraw my motion. You can have Councilman Pizzillo put up a new motion.
I'll
That's
withdraw
fine with
my
me.
second.
Is that satisfactory? Does that work?
Yes.
I'm loving that, good.
Okay.
All right,
You're
so
on,
Councilman
Councilman
Bazzilli, you're
Bazzilli.
on for the motion.
Motion would be effective January 1, 2013. The renewal fee for the liquor license would be $100. Until
directing-
further studies are done, disprove that is not the cost.
And to instruct staff to bring a resolution to council.
Correct, because we need the resolution to actually change it, yes.
And I'm still going to second it.
All right, so we've heard a motion by Councilman Bazzillo and a second by Councilman Stipp. Open for discussion?
The actual fee will still be $635, and the renewal is $100.
Yes, that's
Thank
correct.
you very much.
All right, I think we're ready for a roll call vote on this one. I'd like to do a roll call vote, so.
Councilmember Pizzillo?
Aye.
Councilmember Campbell? Aye. Councilmember Stipp?
Aye.
Vice Mayor Osborne?
Aye.
Councilmember Loretano?
Aye.
Councilmember Gelzer?
Aye.
Mayor Lord?
Aye.
Passes 7-0.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we're now on item E.
Just wiped out $37,000.
That's
for the
124819. Item E is to consider adoption of the public participation plan for the Goodyear 2025 general plan update. Kitty Wilkin to present.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the council, and members of the public. If it please the council, I will give the presentation for item E and item F, pausing for questions since the two items were late.
All right, thank you.
You might remember that we did discuss the public participation plan in work session on January 23rd. Just to bring us up to speed, we're about to begin the update of the general plan, and state statute requires that we first adopt a public participation plan before we begin the update process. You can see the requirements of state statute here. We have to allow for broad dissemination of proposals. We have to give opportunity for written comment. There are requirements regarding public hearings. We have to allow for open discussion and commenting, and then we have to consider the public comments we receive. Based on the state requirements and our discussions with both City Council and Planning and Zoning Commission, we did draft the public participation plan that is before you for consideration tonight. Just to go over what's in that plan briefly. First, just in general, communicating and providing the opportunity for written comment from the public. We have created a website, and it is live. I will warn you that we are still getting the bugs worked out, and Kathy Hosian is helping me jazz it up and make it a little more interesting. And so that link that's up there right now will get you to that website. And we're going to be putting a lot of information on there for the public, and everything that we have available for review will be on that website. We're also starting a mailing and email list, and we did, if you go to the city's main website, there's the e-notify tool. We have a specific e-notify just for the general plan project, so if anyone's interested, I recommend that they get signed up through that. Or my contact information is up on this page, so you can email me directly, and I will get you on that mailing and email list.
Would you just repeat that one more time for the public again and slow it down a little bit, how they can sign up for this on the website?
If you go to, thank you, Mayor. If you go to the main city's website, www.goodyearaz.gov, there's a little button that says e-notify, or notify me, actually. And if you click on that, there is an option for general plan. And so you can sign up through there to get updates on the general plan, as well as a host of other things that the city gives information on. I also am going to be the point of contact on this project, so anyone can give me a phone call or email me at any time and let me know that they're interested in hearing about the general plan project, and I will add you to my mailing list. We're also going to be heavily using the InFocus to get information out to the public, and we will periodically be bringing updates to the Planning Zoning Commission and the City Council on progress of the project and letting you know how it's going. So then kind of going in order of where we are, the public participation is really going to ramp up this fall when we kind of start the visioning and general goal setting. And what we're going to do is, first we're going to have open house meetings, and that's where we hope that the whole community gets out to these open house meetings. They're going to be set up so that people can come and go as they please. If they only have 10 minutes to be able to participate, that's just fine. And then from those meetings, we hope to just get that general information, the strengths and weaknesses of Goodyear, what their priorities for the project are going to be. Then we're going to take that information and go into a visioning workshop, and I've said before, this is going to be similar to the city center charrettes that went on, you know, a Saturday, maybe 9 to 3, where we get it down into the nitty-gritty. Again, this is going to be open to the entire public. Anyone can come and participate this. And from that, we hope to have the draft vision for Goodyear, as well as kind of the overarching goals. Then we're going to put that information out on the website so everyone who wasn't able to participate before can provide comment. And then it will go to the General Plan Committee. And just as a side note, I'm going to get into more detail on the General Plan Committee in a few moments. And so then we hope by the end, by December 2012, we basically have a vision and the overarching goals. And that's when we can move on to our third phase, which is actually creating the plan itself. And so that's mostly going to be work with the general plan committee. And what we plan to do is we'll just, at one general plan committee meeting, we'll discuss a topic, say it's circulation. And then we'll hear from the general plan committee. They'll be using the information we already gathered from the public at large, and they'll give us direction on how to draft the chapter. Then staff will go back, draft a chapter, and bring it at the next general plan committee meeting, and then the committee can review the chapter and give us comments. And from that point on, we'll fix it up, get it on the website so everyone can see it and provide comment on it. We also plan on attending city events when we can and letting the public know that this project is going on. We also discussed that optionally we might want to have additional focus group meetings or additional neighborhood meetings as the process goes on. And we'll look to the general plan committee to give staff guidance as to when we need those. But of course, council could direct us that we need to hold those meetings if you feel we do too. So then we're hoping that by October 2013, we actually have a draft plan. And then we can move on to the required draft review. And we are required to do a 60-day review where there's a certain list of stakeholders that we have to send the plan to, which includes our neighboring communities and like Luke Air Force Base. During that time, we'll also be getting this draft plan out through InFocus, our website, and then we'll be holding open house meetings so the general public can come and ask staff questions about the plan and provide comment in person. And then we'll be taking those comments to the general plan committee, and the general plan committee will actually be making recommendations on how to address those comments that we received on the draft plan. And then our hope is that by February 2014, we have a general plan committee recommended draft. And then the draft will move on to the Planning and Zoning Commission and Council review phase. And we're required to have two public hearings in two different locations with the Planning and Zoning Commission. And then we have one public hearing in front of City Council. And so we're hoping by June 2014 that Council will have approved a draft. And then we can move on to the marketing phase. And we'll be going to city events. There's some required mailings we have to do and some informational mailings we'll do. And then we're planning on hitting the November 2014 election. And so we hope to have a ratified general plan at that point. And then from that point on, we'll go on to implementation, and we'll be looking toward the general plan committee to give us ideas on how we can continue public participation throughout the lifetime of the plan. And that's just a reiteration of the requirements. And so I would just pause here and ask if there's any questions on the public participation plan itself before I move on to the committee. No.
Good job.
Okay. Okay, so using the comments we received, we also have before you the establishment of the Goodyear 2025 General Plan Committee and the bylaws. Just to review that a little bit, we are proposing that the committee would be instated for 18 months and they would meet monthly. It says that you will appoint up to 25 members and 5 alternates. And the process will basically be similar to other boards and committees. We'll accept applications. The council subcommittee will review them and make recommendations. Council will appoint the committee as well as appoint a chair and a vice chair to this committee. The members, the boards and commission handbook states that members must be 18, a Goodyear resident, and a registered voter. But we did put special exceptions in this committee so that the council may appoint a youth commissioner if they wish. And also non-residents may be appointed if the council wishes to have people on there who represent businesses. The other thing is you might want to have somebody who lives in a county island because this plan does extend to the county island areas. And also if you want somebody on there for, say, representing a school district. You're not required to have these people on the committee, but it gives you that freedom. We still, though, have a requirement in there that at least 75% of the committee still has to be residents. So this allows you, of the 25, to appoint up to 6 people who are not residents. The members can't be a city employee, an appointed officer, a council member, or a planning and zoning commissioner.
Katie, when it says an appointed officer, does that preclude other boards and commissions that people serve on, or what do you, could you elaborate on what you mean by an appointed officer?
Thank you, Mayor, Councilmember Gelzer. I believe that refers to like an officer of the court. To be honest, that's completely copied from the boards and commissions handbook. But It does specifically say in there that someone can't be a member of more than 2 boards and commissions. So someone could be a member of the Centennial Committee and be a member of this group. Now, the Planning and Zoning Commission is specifically called out because this is a unique committee, and it's advising the Planning and Zoning Commission. And I know you asked this before, but to let all of council know is there was a concern there could be an open meeting violation by having a Planning and Zoning Commissioner sit on a board that advises the Planning and Zoning Commission. It's an open meeting. They're more than welcome to come, and we are certainly going to keep the Planning and Zoning Commission involved in this update, but they won't be able to be an actual member of the committee. Does that answer your question? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Katie,
Yes.
sorry.
No.
So if this committee advises the Planning and Zoning Committee, why wouldn't the Planning and Zoning Committee appoint this group? Good question, huh?
Yeah, Mayor,
All right, move on.
Councilmember Stepp. Yeah, I think it's, I don't know if the commission has authority to create committees, to be honest.
Okay.
So.
Is that the answer? Bill?
Yeah, I think the answer is the ability to appoint committees rests with the city council. They can appoint a subcommittee of their own members, but they can't appoint a freestanding committee.
Yes.
Katie,
Vice
just
Mayor.
for clarification, when you had stated on the committee itself, so 6 people could be on the committee that were not residents of Goodyear. You stated something about businesses. Would that include, say, large landowners, that someone from Newland wanted to be on there, or from, some of those larger landowners that we have that don't live in Goodyear? Would they be considered one of those?
Thank you. You could, yes, they could be included. They don't have to be included.
Gotcha. Okay.
Just to inform you, as we did have staff put some information in the public participation plan about getting the information out to stakeholders. And so just as we start trying to recruit for this committee, we are going to express the sentiment that we are looking for diverse geographic and demographic representation. We would like to see a variety of backgrounds and interests. And of course, we want community members who care about the future and who are willing to make this commitment, because with 18 monthly meetings, it is a large commitment for the citizens who join this committee. Just to reiterate, right now we're looking at having meetings the second Tuesday of each month. So the first meeting would be October 9th, 2012. The last one would be March 11th, 2014. And meetings will be held in this room, and we're looking at giving people refreshments to entice them to the meetings, and then meetings would be about 6:30 to 8:30, hopefully, if we stay on schedule.
Do we have a budget for that, city manager? Checking, yes.
And just to give you a little bit of upcoming timeline, as soon as the committee is authorized, we're working with the clerk's office to get the applications out on the street. There should be an article in the July In Focus about the General Plan Committee, and then we're looking at closing the application cycle on Monday, August 13th. The next week, the subcommittee could review the applications. We gave a week to interview applicants if the committee wishes to do that, another week to finalize the selection, and then we'll be coming back to council on September 24th with the committee for you to appoint, and then meetings begin October 9th. Planning and Zoning Commission did forward a recommendation of approval for the public participation plan, and staff recommends approval of the resolution 12-1488 to establish the committee and bylaws.
Thank you very much.
Take any
Appreciate it.
questions.
Are there any speakers? And let's take it, we're going to take E first. Let me just designate this. Item E, again, is to consider the adoption of the public participation plan for the Goodyear 2025 General Plan Update. So are there any speaker cards?
No, there are not.
Would anybody from the audience like to speak on this? All right, so I would ask the city clerk to read the resolution 12-1485 by title only, please.
Adopt Resolution 12-1485, adopting a public participation plan to provide effective, early, and continuous public participation in the development of the Goodyear 2025 General Plan Update and provide an effective date.
Thank you. Could I hear a motion, please?
So moved.
A second?
Second.
A motion was made by Councilman Gilzer and a second by Councilman Stiff. Open for council discussion? All right, then let's do a roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Pizzillo?
Aye.
Councilmember Loretano?
Aye.
Councilmember Campbell? Aye. Councilmember Gelzer?
Aye.
Councilmember Stipp?
Aye.
Vice Mayor Osborne?
Aye.
Mayor Lord?
Aye.
Passes 7-0.
Thank you. So now we'll go on to F, 124850. Item F is consideration of resolution establishing the 2025 General Plan Committee and adopting bylaws for the committee. Yeah, are there any speaker cards?
No.
Would anybody in the audience like to speak? I'd ask the city clerk to read the resolution, please, by title only.
Adopt Resolution 12-1488, establishing 2025 General Plan Committee to assist in development of Goodyear 2025 General Plan, providing for the termination of the 2025 General Plan Committee, adopting bylaws for the 2025 General Plan Committee, authorizing the city manager and/or appropriate staff to take all actions necessary to carry out the intent of the resolution and bylaws, and establishing an effective date.
Thank you very much. Could I hear a motion, please, and a second?
So moved.
I heard a motion by Councilman Campbell and a second by Councilman Gelzer. Open for council discussion? No discussion. Roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Loretano?
Aye.
Councilmember Campbell?
Aye.
Councilmember Gelzer?
Aye.
Councilmember Stipp?
Aye.
Vice Mayor Osborne?
Aye.
Councilmember Pizzillo?
Aye.
Mayor Lord?
Aye.
Passes 7-0.
Thank you very much. Next, we're going to item G.
Mayor, before you go, may I just thank Katie
Oh,
for
absolutely,
the
and I
extraordinary staff work on this report, and Joe as well. Thank you so much.
Yeah, I'll echo that. I regret that I didn't say anything, and thank you very much, Councilman
welcome.
Campbell, for bringing that up. I do appreciate it, because it is intensive work,
It
for
is.
sure. Okay, we're on item G, 124826. Item G is to consider amending the city code to create Development Services Department. Brian Dalkey, interim city manager, to present.
Mayor, members of the council, thank you very much. This is looking at the consolidation of two departments in a division, and we'll go through really what the vision is, what we will be creating as part of this, and what is required of council to consider this as in terms of a vote. So wanted to start off just real briefly talking about the vision. Obviously, we've heard it from our community, from our council, that we really want to have a beautiful, safe, sustainable community, and one that is really has a reputation for positive development, working with our developers, working with our businesses. I'm not aware of any business that says, can we process things more slowly? And certainly that's not our intent. Our goal is, our vision is to be easy to work with, not to roll over, but to be easy and work closely with our development community members. So as part of that, we do know that we've made improvements along the way. We continue to make improvements. We think that with this structure, it will really, really help to get us there. Again, it's something that we believe will meet the council's vision. And one of the things that came up as part of a council priority, which is the next slide, in March, council made it clear that they had 14 different objectives that were set for us. And a lot of those were concentrating on putting policies and business practices into place, focusing on the business community as well, and really bringing about efficiencies and effectiveness. So this is very consistent with many of those objectives that were set before us. The policies that we look at doing, we may be changing some of the policies as it relates to how to develop in the city of Goodyear. And we'll go through a few things on that. As we develop policies, as we develop practices, the goal is to bring about job creation, build the tax base. The more tax revenues that we can get, the more job creation, the better for our citizens. The less burden on our citizens for getting revenues from businesses that aren't here yet, developers that aren't here yet. So it really builds that tax revenue pie, if you will. So we believe that by going this direction, we will absolutely be able to enhance those efforts. Now, what happens, what we're looking at is taking departments of community development and economic development, consolidating those along with the division of building safety. building safety, which includes inspections and plan reviews. And with that, we're taking it from 3 different reporting departments right now. Economic development reports to the city manager, community development reports to one of the deputies, and building safety reports to through chain of command to the fire chief. So with this, it puts it under one director. It also puts them under one roof. In addition to being under 3 different departments, we're in 3 different locations. So this puts them under one roof, which will be right across the parking lot from here within this complex. This does require council action per the charter. The charter says that the council will establish departments and delete departments. So this, the charter says that you do this by ordinance through our code, and that's in chapters 1 and chapters 3. This is an excerpt of the chapter 3 code, and you'll look at what we're doing here, where this page will actually change. Community development, which is line item 3, becomes development services. Economic development as a department is deleted, so we're actually reducing the number of departments that we have here at the City of Goodyear. We do know that this has been done in some areas. We know that, for example, Scottsdale, Chandler, Tempe, Surprise, others have actually done this, and Gilbert have done it off and on over the years. Several are still have this as a method of doing business, is to have all this under one department. What you see here, it's a continuum, but it goes back and forth. Economic development, the function is to work on the front end. The function is to work in bringing those, the interests here, the prospects, bringing those businesses, those developers that are looking, investing in our community. It goes through and it works hand in glove with the community development department as it relates to the review of plans, the plats, all those regulatory activities that are associated with that. And then toward the end of this, you get into the inspections. Once you get your building permit, you go through the process of constructing. You go through the process before that plan review. And there is a lot of activity amongst all 3 of these functions back and forth. So we think that it will really build the communication, the vision under one department to be able to work back and forth across this continuum over time. This is an org chart. It was provided to you. I don't believe it's in your on your slides, but this was handed out. This is an organizational chart of how that would look. You see the Department Development Services Director on top. We do have a direct report to that person. Will be a DPA, what we call our Development Process Administrator. And if I could back up just a little bit, we had a consultant that worked for us on a part-time basis in Peter Plant. This was one of his recommendations. And looking at our processes, looking where we had some challenges, felt that it would be very good to have these departments or these divisions, these functions under one umbrella. But we did really like the concept of having a DPA, Development Process Administrator, that could do the hand-holding from beginning to end, really help solve some of the problems, a go-to person, if you will, during the development processes. You'll see there's administrative support, and then each of these groups are now divisions. Economic development will be headed up by a manager, and that is Harry Paxton. Building Safety Division, that's Chief Building Official Ed Kulik. And Community Development Division, that will be headed up by Joe Schmitz. So that's the function that we have in here. Obviously, they have staff that helps support that. But I did want to, show this. I think a picture's worth 1,000 words, and you can actually see the structure that we're putting in place. The next steps, if council does agree to and adopts this tonight, the next steps are we have an amazing human resources department that is working on starting this recruitment at the end of this week. I will also say that we have reached out to the private sector. We've reached out to Urban Land Institute Arizona, to Valley Partnership, to some of our developers for inputs as far as how to make this work. There's a lot of excitement, I will tell you, for helping us out with this effort. So they will continue to do that as well. So if we do go forward with this, we're looking at interviews starting in August, as you'll see here, with bringing the director on board in the fall of 2012. Now, don't know if this will go faster or slower. Don't know if we'll bring someone from out of state that may take a little longer to bring them on board. These are things beyond our control right now. But I will tell you, we will be aggressive as far as this recruitment. Once we have the department, and there will be a lot of expectations placed on this department, it will be things like looking at our sign ordinances. We've heard that a time or two from this council. Design guidelines. Do we want to look at things differently than we've done before? I've heard comments about, and we have a lot of brown. Do we want to keep brown? Those are things we believe that we can bring alternatives for consideration on guidelines to this council. And it's up to us to look at the best practices that are out there. And I would also argue that we will help create the best practices as we go forward down the road. Business processes. There's a lot of effort right now with our staff looking at processes as a result of, and I don't know if I get it right, 1598? Senate Bill 1598, that's a developer's Bill of Rights, if you will. And we're working on that right now. Staff's doing a terrific job, but this will not only take that, we will look at many of our processes as we go along. We will be establishing different targets, different performance measures. We want to do that in concert with the new director. That could be everything from how long does it take to develop? What is our job creation? What are the capital investments? So you begin to see that the development isn't just about, it's all of the functions, economic development, all the way through those functions that work along the way in terms of time, in terms of resolution of issues. So we, again, will be having these spelled out in objectives as we continue going forward with this. So at this point, we are looking for council. We would recommend approval of this tonight, and we're open for questions at this time. Thank you, Mayor.
In a moment, we'll go ahead and ask if there are any speaker cards.
No, there are not.
Would anybody in the audience like to speak on this subject matter? Well, if not, then I would like you to read, City Clerk, the ordinance 12-1258 by title only, please.
Adopt ordinance 12-1258, amending Chapter 3, Article 3-1, Section 3-1-5 of the Goodyear City Code by deleting and replacing Sections 3-1-5A, 3, and 3-1-5A5 to consolidate building and life safety, amending Chapter 3, Article 3-1, Section 3-1-5 of the Goodyear City Code by deleting and replacing Sections 3-1-5A3 and 3-1-5A5 to consolidate building and life safety, economic development, and community development into a newly formed department known as Development Services, amending Chapter 1, Article 1-3 to add Section 1-3-3, adding definition related to consolidation, providing for separability, and providing for an effective date.
Thank you. Could I hear a motion, please, and a second?
So moved.
Second.
I heard a motion by Councilman Stiff and a second by Councilman Loretano. Open for discussion. Councilman Gelser.
I have a couple of questions and then some comments. In the building safety and the building inspectors, where does the fire inspections fall, and where does the fire marshal? I assume the fire marshal stays in the fire department, but where does the fire inspections fall in this process?
Mayor and Council Member Gelser, what we're looking at is that fire plan review and fire inspection will be part of this. Now, that will be the construction side of it. We will still have separate inspectors in the fire department that will be doing the annual inspections of extinguishers and exits and those types of things. It will not be part of this. This will be focused on the construction. So the plan reviewers and the construction inspector will be part of this group under building safety.
Okay, excellent. Okay. My comment is, I remember 11 years ago when I first started showing up at city council meetings, and I remember hearing economic development making a proposal, and then afterwards the council would talk, and then planning and zoning would come up and say, well, you can't do this. And I remember walking out of several meetings asking if the economic development people actually did talk with planning and zoning before they invited a company to come to Goodyear to build. The answer was sort of, but it was pretty tenuous. And I have seen that over the last 11 years, and it's like, I cannot believe it has taken us this long to get to start thinking that we need to break down the silos between different departments and different divisions, especially when we're trying to build things in the city. So I am very excited about this, and I think this is a great idea.
Thank you. Councilman Loretano.
I support this. I think you're doing a good job in cutting out some of the middleman and making it more streamlined for our citizens, which is one thing we heard about, that, you know, having everybody talk together is a good thing, and putting everyone in the same building under the same umbrella, I think you'll see a lot of ease for our citizens. We'll see a lot more friendly environment to work in, less frustration. Thank you.
Vice Mayor Osborne.
Actually, I just want to echo everything that was said so far. I truly, for 12 years, I've seen this, and I'm optimistic that this is the right way to go. And the fact that everybody's going to be under the same roof, that, you know, if someone from economic development says, oh, hey, this is really cool, and right there next to them is someone in the planning department, they can stop right there at the desk and talk to them rather than sending emails or sending, you know, I just think that this is, functionality is going to work very well. And Gary said it great, you know, breaking down those silos are something that has been, I think, reported to us when the study was taking place. So I'm very supportive of it.
Councilman Stipp.
Yeah, I was hoping to get onto that earlier. This is very badly needed, and I know we've had a lot of offline discussion, you know, regarding this, and that between the manager and myself, and this is one of those things that we talked about in those initial objectives for the new city manager, is to look at our processes and to have this vision and bring this forward. I think is really very commendable in a very short period of time, and I really want to thank you for that, Mr. Dalkey.
Councilwoman Campbell.
I wanted to thank you that you're separating the fire inspectors. That was needed, and we need all the inspectors together to do whatever they need to do, and that it will certainly streamline the process. And thank you very much for implementing this vision that Mr. Plant had, and I think we'll be very successful with it.
Councilman Pizzillo.
There's not much more to add. One of the things that I always like to look at is how we look at our service delivery model and how we can streamline this and make us more efficient. The only thing I would like to add is as you work to develop your goals and objectives, and I think we've had this discussion with not just this department but others, but come up with something that's measurable so we can check on whether things are working or not working, what our goals are, that we can tie into something that not so subjective but more objective. And we've had this discussion on how we're going to kind of look at that we make it through the other departments, but that's all I would add.
Well, thank you. I've been frustrated for quite some time. Coming from the home building business, that side was evident that there was frustration on that part. But since I've become mayor and met with all the businesses and seen the frustrations that are going out there with new businesses coming into our city, the process, time is money, and it's the same way for the residents, for the home builders. And so I can't thank you enough for finally being the one to make the move. And it's very interesting that it would be our interim city manager that would be doing this. But, you know, whether it's a business or whether a house is built, whatever it is, when they come through those doors of the city hall, it's called service. It's called giving the best service. It's called listening. It's called being ready for new and creative ideas. It's about letting staff be creative by not micromanaging it. So bringing all the departments together, where when we have a business come in, you know, like some Sub-Zero, some of the big companies, all things, Dick's Warehousing, that everybody's around the table. And in the past, it hasn't been. And when people have come in for requests, it's been cut off at one department or the other before the other department even finds anything out about it. So I am excited. I'm already getting comments from people regionally on your city council. Wow. First of all, they say how well we get along, how well we discuss things, how well we come together, even though we all have different opinions, and tonight certainly showed that. So they really see the progress, and with you stepping in on this and bringing this, and this is not just our consultant we had, and this is you and some of your ideas that you brought forth. I know that. So I thank you. And then I thank staff, because you've been very receptive when our interim city manager has gone out, and there's been some deep changes. I mean, there's been some shockers. But you know what? It's been great is that you've thought about the city and not yourselves. Even though this is revenue to some people, I think we've eliminated now 2 director positions. Is that correct?
We have eliminated, we've eliminated one, if you will. Community
Okay.
Development and Economic Development Directors is now the Development Service Director.
all
So
right.
it was a merger.
So, you know, that's an advantage in a sense economically, and certainly is in the thought that the citizens have expressed in the past, that we do something. So I'm energized. I think council's energized, and my old expression, the proof is in the pudding, but I have great confidence in this recipe, so I am looking forward to it. So with that, I guess we need to wrap this one up. So I will, did we do a motion already? Thank you. So I'll ask for a roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Campbell. Aye. Councilmember Gelzer.
Aye with enthusiasm.
Councilmember Stipp.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Osborne.
Aye.
Councilmember Pizzillo.
Aye.
Councilmember Loretano.
Aye.
Mayor Lord.
Aye.
Passes 7-0.
Okay, thank you very much. And now we're on item H. 124847 is to consider adopting resolution opposing the proposed amendment to the Arizona Motorsports Special Use Permit to allow for commercial operations. Sarah Chilton will present. But, yes, Sarah? Thank you.
Mayor Lord, Vice Mayor Osborne, council members. We're here before you to discuss the city's position on a application to amend a sports or a special use permit for Arizona Motorsports Park. They own approximately 148 acres that are located the northeast corner of Camelback Road and Reams Road. That is located within a county island. It is about half a mile from Palm Valley 5, some of the residences that have been constructed in Palm Valley 5. It operates a racetrack and a skid pad performance driving area under the terms of a special use permit that was issued in December of 2001. Their special use permit currently prohibits them from engaging in commercial operations. They're limited to non-commercial operations, and they are seeking to amend the special use permit to allow it to engage in commercial operations. The city has opposed all efforts by the Arizona Motorsports to expand the use of its permit. We supported the county supervisors in its effort to revoke its permit based on the misrepresentations that they made during the application process when they were obtaining the original special use permit. The special use permit was issued in December of 2001. They completed their improvements in spring of 2003. Arizona Motorsports held its first race in March of 2003, and the phones began ringing off the hook. We had complaints from Goodyear residents. Litchfield Park had complaints from its residents, and Supervisor Wilson also received complaints about the operations. Supervisor Wilson attempted to kind of negotiate a settlement, maybe imposing some noise limitations that were more consistent with what their understanding was when they issued the special use permits. Those negotiations failed. Eventually, in December of 2003, the county revoked the special use permit that was issued. And they did so based on the misrepresentations of Arizona Motorsports during the application process. During the application process, well, the narrative describing the proposed facility says that the facility was a private, non-commercial racetrack facility, and the activities would be limited in scale and intensity. During the hearing, questions were raised about noise level. Questions were raised saying this isn't supposed to be, you know, like a Manzanita or a Firebird Raceway. They were assured it wasn't. In response to concerns over noise, it was described as a private recreation facility for the property owner who would be running street-legal, high-performance vehicles. It was described as a place for the owner to get out there and play with his cars. Jan Brewer at that time was a county supervisor, and she said, oh, you mean it's like some man's private toyland, which the guy said, yes, that's exactly what it is. So based on the difference between what was represented during the hearing and how they were operating it, the County Board of Supervisors revoked the special use permit. Arizona Motorsports sued based on the misrepresentations. The trial court and then the Court of Appeals basically found that the County Board of Supervisors improperly revoked the use permit because although they admit there were many admitted misrepresentations, and the court case talks about the misrepresentations and acknowledged them. They said they had the opportunity to impose stipulations, imposing noise restrictions, or further limiting the operations. They didn't do it, and he spent $6 million in getting the track built, and so they could not. So they could not revoke the special use permit. While this case was pending, Arizona Motorsports filed an application to amend its special use permit again, and I didn't ever quite understand that because we aren't party to that process. But it was to expand the number of people they were allowed on site. They currently have a 200 person limitation, and we did weigh in on that. The City Council adopted a resolution opposing that application to amend. Never sure if it was ever heard or because it was revoked at the time, so I'm not sure how procedurally it was treated. But that was never processed. It was never approved, but we did weigh in with a resolution opposing it. When the county lost at the Court of Appeals, there was a lot of discussion about whether they should pursue this further. Again, the City Council weighed in on the with the County Board of Supervisors, urging them to continue the suit. At that time, Don Wilson was working closely with the owner, and they were trying to negotiate some kind of settlement and to impose noise limits. The noise limits, they basically held a typical race that generated the complaints that we had in 2003. So it was a typical race that generated the complaints. The high limit, noise limit was about 99 decibels. There was a couple outliers that were higher and maybe one or two that were a little lower, not much. So they kind of codified the race noise that generated the complaints in the first instance. In the noise study that was done, it registered in excess of what many health organizations say is a noise level that for residential areas. They say that the level for noise level for residential should be 55 or not 55 decibels. And that's the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency, the World Health Organization, and the American National Standards Institute recommended a maximum day to night average sound level of 55 decibels. So when they did the noise study back when they were negotiating a settlement, a mile and a quarter or a mile and a half from the racetrack in Pebble Creek, it was registering from to 80 decibels down to 59 decibels, but mostly in excess of, say, 55 decibels. So Don Wilson basically said, we don't have any choice. This is the best we're going to get. We're not going to pursue it, but we did weigh in. Council adopted the resolution opposing the settlement, saying, you know, the noise levels, the noise study really didn't provide adequate protection. But, you know, county really didn't have any choice. So they settled it. Now there is a 99 decibel limit, and there's some penalties for excesses, but if you look at how they're adopted and how you can revoke the permit, they're almost meaningless because they have to be this rolling average and stuff. The application, we received notice that they had applied to amend it to expand the special use permit to engage in commercial operations. Their position, at least stated in letters, is we've been operating for 18 months without any kind of noise complaints, without citizen complaints. I don't know about the other jurisdictions. I don't believe we've had any noise complaints in Goodyear, but I can't tell from what I looked at on their website, on Arizona Motorsports website, I can't tell if they held the kinds of events that triggered the noise complaints in the first instances. It doesn't look like it. They do a lot of kind of like Bondurant and driving school. So, you know, there might be 1 or 2 cars out there, but, you know, that's what showed up on their event calendar. Looking at the blogs, the comments, again, it looked like they had just started racing. The other thing is, I don't know if people didn't complain because it was widely publicized that we lost this case and we couldn't do anything about it. So I'm not sure if you had people who were complaining or not. But since Palm Valley 5 has been developed, now we have residences within a half a mile. And we don't know what they're going to do. Their track record on telling us what they're going to do, and you know, they get what they need from the county, and then their operations are very inconsistent with what everybody thought. I will say that when they did apply to expand the number of people allowed at the premises, the application suggested, and at that time they were assuming they could engage in commercial operations. That was another issue that was resolved at the Court of Appeals, and everybody concedes now they're limited to non-commercial. But at that time, they were saying they were going to run 265 events a year. The current special use permit allows them to conduct 4 to 6 races a month. So that's, you know, 1 every weekend. 72 total in a year they could have. So it's not much of a limitation. You could have racing out there the whole time. Again, the application would only, although it would allow them to engage in commercial operations, and their stated basis is, you know, they can't afford to run it on their own if it's their, you know, if they have to fund it personally. Well, that's how they represented it when they got their special use permit, and it's really that one provision is, I think, the only provision that provides any kind of protection from a very substantial increase in the use of that property. So we've put together a resolution for council's consideration opposing it based on our history and what we think is best in the residents' interests.
All right, thank you. Are there any speaker cards?
Yes. Scott Rose.
Did you say Rose?
Yes.
Mr. Rose? Hello, welcome.
My name is Scott Rose. My address is 1850 North Central Avenue, suite number 2400. I represent Arizona Motorsports Park and its owner, Dan Maloney. I will tell you that I did not represent them at that original Board of Supervisors hearing, but I have represented them for about the last 9 years. We started litigation after the initial mess occurred. And as Sarah said, and I would like to say thank you to Sarah for having the courtesy to send me the resolution last week, so I had an opportunity to take a look at that, and I do appreciate that. But we did commence litigation, and it went on for about 4 or 5 years. A lot of the time during that litigation, we were engaged in settlement negotiations. And we worked with a couple of very fine lawyers from Gus Rosenfeld who represented the county during that period of time. The result of the litigation was that we had the ability to reopen. We were also told that we did not have the right to have commercial use. That's why we're here today, to see if we can change that. Now, will I be limited to 3 minutes? If I will be, that's fine. I'll try to keep it within the 3 minutes.
That is the norm.
Okay, well, that's fine. There are a number of things that Ms. Chilton said today that diplomatically, I would say, I have a different perspective on, and including some of the noise and sound standards. In her report, her staff report, she talked about the World Health Organization's 55 dBA average limits, but then in the next sentence talks about some max amounts at one of the locations where the monitors were. So we're comparing averages to maxes. It also failed to report that at a closer site, at the same time, the numbers that were produced were lower than what were produced at site number 6 that she cited. I have to emphasize that the standards that were imposed on us were suggested by the county's experts. The county did have a choice, contrary to what she said. The county did have a choice during the litigation to continue on with the litigation. If we had thought that the county had no choice, we would never have entered into a settlement with them, because we would have been able to get everything that we wanted. There was ongoing battles, if you will, between the county and us. And we fought, they fought, and we reached a middle position on this. Would you like me to go on, or would you like me to finish up here?
As soon as the red light, is the red light come on yet? You still have a moment. Continue.
So, as far as the number, okay, there it is, my friendly red light.
Madam Mayor, in deference to the applicant, could we allow him a few more minutes of additional time to make a presentation?
Well, normally I don't do this, but I will let him sum it up very quickly.
Okay. The one of the items that was mentioned was the 265 days that we had proposed at one time during settlement. This sort of falls into the category of no good deed goes unpunished. Right now, we have the ability to operate 365 days. When we were in settlement discussions with the county, that was part of our settlement, was to lop off almost a third of the number of operating days that we were allowed to have. So now we're told, well, you might have 265 events. So far, there have only been 52 event days altogether in over a year and a half.
Thank you. Would you sum it up now and say, I think that...
Thank you. Thank you very much for your time. I appreciate it. I would encourage you to not pass the resolution, and I would be happy to answer any questions you might have. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you very much. Is there anybody else in the audience who would like to speak? I'd like to ask the city clerk to please read Resolution 12-1487 by title only.
Adopt Resolution 12-1487, opposing the proposed amendment to Arizona Motorsports Special Use Permit to allow for commercial operations, authorizing the city manager or his designee to take all actions necessary to carry out the intent of the resolution and establishing an effective date.
Thank you very much. Could I hear a motion, please?
So moved.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
I heard a motion by Councilman Campbell and a second by Vice Mayor Osborne. Open for council discussion. Councilman Loretano.
I and several other council members attended the open house you had, and I found a lot of my questions were answered at that time. I do want to give you kudos for there is some charity work right now they're giving money to charity. I think that needs to be established as well and brought forward. And 18 months, not many problems is a good thing. But for me, it's not really enough. It's kind of like you're on probation after 10 years of talking to some of the residents of this long and, tortured history of this property. I just don't see that there's enough of a history for me to say, let's make changes, because you did have the agreement, and that was an agreement, and 18 months is a very blink of the eye right now when we consider how long this has been going on.
Any other comments? Councilman Stipp?
Sherry, I echo everything that you said. I was at the public hearing. I did appreciate, or not hearing, but the public question and answer. It was a very interesting discussion because we heard from people who use the track as well as from residents nearby. So I thought that perspective was very interesting. I live fairly close to the track in the northern part of Goodyear there, and have very vivid memories of the opening weekend and then subsequent weeks here. But ultimately, there's a lot of residents who live in that area that are just fearful of what a change in this will be. And while I said that night, and obviously want to reiterate again, we don't have any say in whether this goes forward or not. It's strictly a county issue. I think that we have heard clearly from our residents that they're not in support of that. And I think we've got an obligation to listen to what our residents are telling us to do.
Councilwoman Campbell?
Well, I wanted to just add that the residents that I have heard from, the majority of them indicated a lack of trust with Mr. Maloney because when we found out that the initial application was presented one way and then he began racing, and it disturbed the quality of life of everyone in my neighborhood. We couldn't be outside or inside because we would hear the cars. I just think it's too soon to bring this request forward. The community has not forgotten the whole episode, and just the thought that it might reopen, it's just the beginning. If this reopens, what's going to come next and what's going to happen out there? And we just think it's really going to disturb the quality of life. In my area, we have some new homes that are going to be built, and it's going to affect these potential new homeowners coming in if in fact racing is held there, and that was our concern. So and I will be in favor of voting for this resolution to oppose your use permit.
Vice Mayor Osborne?
Well, I can't quite figure out, with all the history, is that originally it does sound like this wasn't really a business, but now the turn is to make it a business type of entity. And where typically we're all very supportive of businesses and their rights to capitalize on what they have. I think for the best interest of the public good in our city, we're not the county, but we are the city, and we're looking out for our citizens, and I will support this resolution of opposition.
I appreciate you coming up tonight and certainly defending your client on this. In my view, I couldn't understand why they got the permit in the first place. I think it's, in a sense, it's a shame that somebody gave permission to this, because could have saved him a lot of money not to have completed this to this racetrack. It doesn't fit in the neighborhood. It doesn't even fit with people's general plans. If you look at how the area is progressing, one could very at a blink of an eye see that this recreational facility, although it is an active one that a lot of people enjoy, I mean, there are people that love that sport and love racing their cars. It's where they located it. And so someone didn't have a lot of forethought when that initial application came in. Because had they done that, then they would have not placed it there. They would have found an appropriate place that maybe some of us would all be going to and enjoying. But in my view and in the council's view, and I can tell you in the public's view, well, it has been very noisy out there, and that hasn't subsided at all, and I'm sure you heard that at the meeting. So while we don't have an iron hand on this one, and that's a regret that I have, that we don't, all we can do is go through a resolution, and so you can see the majority of the council here Well, the majority does feel this way, and the majority of our citizens feel this way. Although we have heard from a couple of them that have written to us that really like the facility. And granted, it probably is a great facility for what they want to do. It's just not in the right place. But again, thank you for appearing tonight. Okay, let's do a roll call vote.
Councilmember Gilzer,
Aye.
Councilmember Stipp,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Osborne.
Aye.
Councilmember Pizzillo.
Aye.
Councilmember Loretano.
Aye.
Councilmember Campbell.
Aye.
Mayor Lord.
Aye.
Passes 7-0.
All right, thank you. So now's the time for, it's been a long evening, but you still have a chance to talk a little bit more. So would you like to talk or discuss anything about activities that you've been attending in the last week or so? Or no one?
Oh, I have a couple.
Okay, Vice Mayor Osborne?
Move on.
I just wanted to let you know that I attended the Arizona Town Hall's 50th anniversary of their annual meeting, and it was, congratulations to them. I think that our state has shown the rest of the nation how to do town halls. And actually, they all discussed on what's going to be some of the next topics. And education, it was between education, K through 12, the economy, and immigration, and any other items you may come up with. But education, K through 12, is what was the big winner. Attended a meeting from the chamber where we were discussing the Proposition 302 funds for tourism, and it looks like the things that Goodyear has asked for spring training and different paraphernalia will go forward as long as the money continues to go in the state. Went to the goodbye event for Dr. Stafford, the superintendent of Avondale School District. She's done a fabulous job. We're looking forward to her successor. Had our grad night lock-in, and went to the Pebble Creek Plume meeting. But I did want to let you all know, and this is something that I had asked about with the pigs, and this is the reason for my question about it, making sure that our schools were covered on that. You know, what's really exciting about our city is that we're so diverse. And, I mean, not only in our industries, but in our people and the things that our schools have. And it's, you know, you saw our little ag issues team from Millennium come in and give us a presentation. Well, I have to tell you that the state competition was this last week, and Millennium kicked butt. And quite frankly, I will have to tell you, in the state competition, our little school won the state dairy judging, livestock judging, forestry judging, conduct of meeting, and their full team. Our little ag issues team won state, and also the parliamentary procedures team won state. All of those groups will be going to Indiana for the nationals in October. And so, you know, it's exciting because really agriculture out here is still a big industry, and I'm really proud of all those kids. And I just wanted you all to know that it is important and it's exciting that we have two schools in our city that really are showing in true colors with it.
Well, thank you for enlightening us on that. I agree with you, and it was nice to hear that information from you. And we might want to certainly give those kids a little send-off, or I shouldn't say kids, those young adults, a send-off or some recognition in one of our communication efforts. So thank you, Joanne, for updating us on that. Any other? Well, shame on me, I didn't make my list tonight, but there was just a couple of things that were very interesting. I attended an event from the country of Belgium where we were briefed on the industries. Yes, it's very interesting, and I'm getting this through the international committee that I sit on the Greater Phoenix Economic Council. So we're having discussions personal discussions with the Canadians as well as the Belgians and Belgiques. So it's really interesting. Belgiques. That's what when I lived in Europe, I called them Belgiques instead of, people from Belgium. But if
Never
it's,
heard that.
if it's incorrect, I stand to be corrected, but I don't think so. So it's just that when the gentleman talked about Canada tonight, I just want to bring this up because we are getting a lot of interest in the state of Arizona from other countries. And so, we could in the future add one more. Well, we have more than room for one more. Business from one of our neighboring countries, European countries, or Middle East, or Far East. So the doors are always open. There was I had to speak at an opening of FastMed. So I just want to make you all aware there is a new medical, like an urgent clinic that sits right on Litchfield in McDowell. So very convenient, so it's nice to see that part. Did a lot of other things, but I do want to mention one thing is that some of us attended some of the same things that all of you attended, but Sue Linney was a council person in Goodyear and gave a great deal of time to us. And her husband developed Alzheimer's disease, and so they moved to La Loma. And so on this weekend, Saturday, he passed away this week, and so they did a celebration of his life. And so some of us went, including Brian Dalkey, and it was most appreciated by the Lenny family. And so I just wanted to mention that because when people dedicate time like she did to our city, and she was a good council person, she actually got me into this business, and she brought me into Little League when it was forming, and I helped form Little League before I got on the council. So I just wanted to mention that, and
Thank you.
And we appreciate all of her efforts. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to the city manager for your report.
Mayor and council, I really have nothing tonight. We did address several things in the work session for follow-up. I would just add to the comments on Dan Linney. Gary Gelser did a remarkable job.
Let me interject that.
Sure.
Absolutely outstanding. I was really impressed of your ability to do that. So we know where we can put him to work at the city now. There's some things that he's not doing, we can add to his list.
Yes, he was the master of ceremonies. It really led us through a lot of Dan Linney's life, and it was. I know that the family was very appreciative, but it was a great celebration. With that, I have nothing else at this point.
Well, without that, let me see. Let me announce the next meeting will be Monday, June 8th. Is this correct?
We have a special meeting
We have a
right
special.
after this.
Well, would you just please? I'm
Yes,
going to
ma'am.
mention it. I'm going to mention it. I just want to make sure. Is this correct? The June 18th? Because the next meeting is June 18th. So before I adjourn this meeting, we are going to go into special meeting, so we get to stay here later than the rest of you. So enjoy your evening, and this meeting is adjourned. Come back from the, because I adjourned it. Okay.
Did somebody leave? Oh, Bill left.
They did, because somebody's gone. Good job tonight, guys.